A bottle of vinegar in a medieval monastery lasted years. It could clean wounds, preserve food for an entire winter, and fight infections that would have killed without it. That same bottle cost almost nothing to make. Your bottle of store-bought vinegar? It was made in 24 hours, and that speed is why it can't do any of those things anymore. Because real vinegar isn't just sour water. Real vinegar is alive. Medieval monks knew this. They spent weeks, sometimes months, growing a living organism inside their vinegar barrels. An organism that gave vinegar the power to kill bacteria, heal skin, and preserve meat for years without refrigeration. Modern vinegar doesn't have it. It was removed on purpose, because it slowed down production. Today, we're walking into the monastery cellars, because the difference between the vinegar monks made and the vinegar you bought last week isn't just taste. It's biology. And once you see what they took out, you'll never look at that bottle the same way again. France, 1394. The city of Orléans passes a set of laws so strict that vinegar makers who break them can lose their entire business overnight. Total destruction of their stock and a permanent ban from the trade. Their crime? Rushing the process. Now that might sound extreme for a condiment, but here's what you need to understand. In medieval Europe, vinegar wasn't something you put on salad. It was medicine, disinfectant, and the primary method of food preservation all in one. Hospitals used it to clean wounds. Armies carried barrels of it on campaigns. Every monastery had a vinegar cellar the same way every monastery had a chapel. It was that important. The monks who made the best vinegar in Europe weren't cooking in kitchens. They were working in long, warm cellars beneath stone buildings. And the process they used was nothing like what happens in a factory today. Walk into one of those monastery cellars and the first thing that would hit you is the smell. Sharp, warm, almost sweet underneath the acid. The air itself would sting your eyes. Rows of oak barrels lined the walls, each one only half full. That empty space at the top wasn't a mistake. It was the whole point. Because floating on the surface of the liquid inside every barrel was something that looked like a thick rubbery pancake. Pale, wet, slightly translucent. If you touched it, it would feel like raw chicken skin, slippery, tough, alive. The monks called it the mother, and they treated it with more care than almost anything else in the monastery. When a new barrel was started, the monks didn't just pour wine into it and wait. They took a piece of the mother from an older barrel, carefully, with clean hands, and placed it into the new one. Some of these mother cultures had been kept alive for decades, passed from barrel to barrel, generation to generation of monks, each one carrying forward a living colony that nobody fully understood, but everyone knew was essential. If you lifted that mother out of the barrel, it would hang from your hands like a wet sheet, heavy and dripping. Underneath it, the liquid was murky, dark amber, nothing like the crystal clear vinegar you see in stores today. The monks didn't filter it, they didn't pasteurize it, they left it exactly as the bacteria made it. Here's what was actually happening inside that barrel. The mother is a biofilm, a dense mat of acetic acid bacteria, primarily a species called Acetobacter. These bacteria need three things: alcohol, oxygen, and time. The alcohol came from the wine, the oxygen came from the air above the half-filled barrel, and the time? The monks gave it months. During those months, the Acetobacter slowly converted the alcohol into acetic acid. That's the sour part, the part you taste. But that conversion wasn't the real secret. The real secret was everything else the bacteria produced along the way. And that's what modern vinegar is completely missing. Here's what nobody tells you about medieval vinegar. The acid was just the beginning. During those weeks and months of slow fermentation, the Acetobacter bacteria were producing something far more valuable: sour liquid. They were building enzymes, hundreds of them, each one designed to break down a specific substance. Some broke down proteins, others targeted fats, others attacked the cell walls of harmful bacteria. The longer the fermentation, the more enzymes accumulated. A vinegar that fermented for 3 months had a completely different chemical profile than one that fermented for 3 days. In 2016, researchers at the University of Ljubljana in Slovenia analyzed traditionally fermented vinegar made using the old slow method. They found over 60 different bioactive compounds, including polyphenols, organic acids, and amino acids that don't exist in fast-produced vinegar. These compounds had measurable antibacterial and antioxidant effects. That's why monks could pour vinegar on a wound and watch the infection stop. It wasn't just the acid burning the bacteria, it was an entire army of bioactive compounds attacking the infection from multiple directions at once. But the mother culture did something else that made the whole system work. It acted as a living filter. Every barrel in a monastery cellar was part of a chain. New wine went into the first barrel, partially fermented vinegar moved to the second, stronger vinegar moved to the third. The French called this the Orléans method. At each stage, the mother culture filtered out impurities, broke down unwanted compounds, and concentrated the beneficial ones. By the time vinegar reached the final barrel, it had been processed by living bacteria 3 or 4 times. Each pass made it stronger, cleaner, and more complex. This is the same basic principle behind aged balsamic vinegar in Modena, Italy, where families still use barrel systems that have been running continuously for over 100 years. Some of those barrel sets are older than the United States. And here's the part that connects everything. The mother culture itself was a preservation system. As long as the mother stayed alive and healthy, the vinegar couldn't spoil. The bacteria controlled the environment inside the barrel so completely that nothing harmful could grow. No mold, no rot, no contamination. The vinegar protected the mother, and the mother protected the vinegar. It was a closed loop, self-sustaining. A medieval monk could seal a barrel and open it a year later, and the vinegar would be better than the day he sealed it. Now, if this system was so effective, why did we abandon it? The answer starts with a German chemist and a very impatient industry. In 1823, a German chemist named Carl Sebastian Schusenbach invented something that would change vinegar forever. He called it the packed generator method. Here's how it worked. Instead of letting bacteria sit on the surface of a barrel for months, Schusenbach built tall wooden towers and packed them with wood shavings or charcoal. He poured alcohol over the top and let it trickle down through the packing. Air was forced up from the bottom. The bacteria lived on the shavings, and the alcohol dripped past them. The result was vinegar in days instead of months. Production costs dropped. Output exploded. Factories loved it. But Schusenbach's method was still too slow for the 20th century, so in the 1950s, the industry invented the submerged fermentation method. This is what your supermarket vinegar is made with today. Picture a massive stainless steel tank. Inside, alcohol and water are pumped in. Industrial acetobacter cultures are added. Then the tank pumps air directly through the liquid at high pressure. The bacteria are forced to work at maximum speed. No surface mat, no mother culture, no time to build enzymes or complex compounds. From raw alcohol to finished vinegar in 24 to 48 hours. In 2009, researchers at the University of Applied Sciences in Wädenswil, Switzerland, compared slow fermented vinegar with industrially produced vinegar. The slow method produced vinegar with significantly higher concentrations of bioactive compounds and beneficial organic acids. The industrial vinegar had acetic acid and almost nothing else. Same label, same bottle shape, but a completely different product inside. Here's the pattern. Medieval monks gave vinegar months. The bacteria had time to build a complex living ecosystem. They produced dozens of enzymes, organic acids, and protective compounds. The vinegar was alive. Modern factories give it 24 hours. The bacteria produce acid and nothing else. The vinegar is dead. And then they add the final insult. Most cheap vinegar today isn't even made from wine or cider anymore. It's made from petroleum-derived ethanol, industrial alcohol produced in a chemical plant, fed to bacteria in a steel tank, bottled, and sold to you as the same product that monks spent months crafting. The label says distilled white vinegar. It doesn't say made from fossil fuel byproducts. But that's what it is, and it's in your kitchen right now. We replaced a living medicine with industrial acid water. A product that monks poured on wounds to stop infection is now a product you wouldn't put on a cut. Not because vinegar stopped working, because this isn't vinegar. Not the way monks understood it. This is the same pattern you see everywhere. Strip out the biology, speed up the process, sell the hollow result for the same price, and when the product no longer works, sell a supplement to replace what you removed. Medieval vinegar was a probiotic, an enzyme source, and a preservative all in one bottle. Now you buy probiotic capsules, digestive enzyme pills, and chemical preservatives separately because the one product that did all three was gutted for factory speed. And it gets worse. Because the industry knows you're catching on, they see you searching for raw vinegar, unfiltered vinegar, vinegar with the mother. They know the wellness market is booming, so now they're selling you premium vinegar for $10, $15, sometimes $20 a bottle. But here's the trick. Many of those bottles start with the exact same industrial process. Submerged fermentation. 24 to 48 hours. Then at the very end, they add a small piece of mother culture back into the bottle. That little blob floating at the bottom, it wasn't grown during fermentation, it was dropped in after. For the label, the vinegar itself never had a living mother during production. The bacteria never had months to build enzymes. The complex compounds were never created. You're looking at industrial vinegar with a piece of decoration floating in it. Want to know if you've been fooled? Grab your bottle right now, read the ingredients. If it says diluted with water, it's industrial. If it says from grain alcohol or doesn't specify a source at all, it started as petroleum-derived ethanol. Real traditionally fermented vinegar tells you exactly what it came from: wine, cider, or a specific fruit, and the label will say raw, unpasteurized, and unfiltered. Now flip the bottle over. Real mother fermented vinegar is cloudy, not a little hazy. You can barely see through it. That cloudiness is the enzymes, the proteins, the living compounds that the bacteria built over weeks of slow fermentation. If your vinegar is crystal clear with a blob at the bottom, someone dropped that blob in after the fact. You're paying 5 times more for a marketing prop in a bottle of acid water. But here's the good news. You don't need a monastery. You don't need oak barrels or a stone cellar. The monk's method is so simple, it's almost embarrassing how much the industry charges for the result. Here's how to make real living vinegar at home. The same method monks used. Step 1. Get raw, unpasteurized apple cider. Not juice from concentrate. Not filtered. You want the cloudy stuff with sediment at the bottom. If you can't find raw cider, use any raw, unpasteurized fruit juice or even leftover wine. Step 2. Pour it into a wide-mouth glass jar. Fill it about halfway. The wide mouth matters because the bacteria need oxygen from the surface. A narrow bottle chokes them. Step 3. Cover the jar with cheesecloth or a clean cotton towel. Secure it with a rubber band. This lets air in but keeps flies and dust out. Step 4. Put the jar somewhere warm and dark. A kitchen cupboard works. Ideal temperature is between 60 and 80 degrees Fahrenheit. Below 60, the bacteria go dormant. Above 85, they die. Step 5. Wait. This is the part we forgot, the part the industry removed. For the first week, you might not see much, maybe some bubbles. That's the remaining yeast converting sugar to alcohol. Don't disturb it. After week 2, you'll start to smell vinegar, sharp, clean, unmistakable. A thin film may appear on the surface. That's your mother forming. That film is billions of Ectobacter bacteria building a home. Don't touch it. Don't shake the jar. Let it grow. After 4 to 6 weeks, taste it. Dip a clean spoon in. If it's sour and tangy with a slight sweetness underneath, it's working. If you want it stronger, wait another 2 weeks. After 8 weeks, your vinegar is done. Strain out the mother, but don't throw her away. Put her in a fresh jar with new cider, and she'll start the process again. That one mother culture can produce vinegar for years, decades even, just like the monks did. Here's what to expect. Your first batch might smell a little funky during week 1. That's normal. The bacteria are establishing dominance. If it smells like nail polish remover, that's ethyl acetate. It means the jar is too warm or there's too little oxygen. Open it up, stir once, and move it somewhere cooler. If mold appears on the surface, and I mean fuzzy mold, not the smooth, rubbery mother, throw it out and start over. Mold means something got in, but 9 times out of 10, this works without any problems. Don't use a jar with a metal lid during fermentation. The acid will corrode the metal and ruin the vinegar. Glass, ceramic, or food-grade plastic only. And never add raw vinegar to a hot pan thinking it will work like store-bought. The heat kills the living compounds. Use it cold, on salads, in dressings, or as a daily tonic mixed with water. Once your mother is established, you can share it. Cut a piece off, put it in a jar with a cup of your finished vinegar, and give it to someone. That's exactly what monks did. They passed mother cultures between monasteries across Europe. Some of those lineages survived for hundreds of years. Your kitchen jar is the same tradition, just a smaller cellar. That's it. Cider, a jar, a cloth, and time. The same 4 elements monks used 700 years ago. No temperature probes, no starter kits, no $20 bottles. Just bacteria doing what bacteria have done for centuries if you give them the chance. The vinegar you make in your kitchen with a glass jar and some patience will have more bioactive compounds than anything you can buy at the store. That's not a guess. That's what the research shows. The difference isn't equipment, it's time. It's always been time. Vinegar isn't the enemy. Industrial vinegar is. The monks in that stone cellar weren't making a condiment. They were growing a living medicine, and all they needed was patience. If you want more forgotten knowledge that the modern world buried, subscribe to Medieval Way. We're digging up the methods that actually worked, the ones the industry replaced with shortcuts. And if this video made you think twice about that bottle in your cupboard, share it with someone who could use it. Maybe their gut problems aren't a mystery. Maybe the answer has been sitting in a monastery cellar for 700 years. We'll see you in the next.